During Marvel Comics' Krakoan era, the mutants were able to prosper. In fact, Marvel's X-Men were able to cheat death and terraform an entire planet. However, the X-Men were unable to save their home from alien invaders, and the island nation of Krakoa has been disbanded. Now, in the wake of the From the Ashes era for the X-Men, Cyclops has assembled a brand new team of heroes in his base of Merle, Alaska, known as the Factory. My name is Araco Braddock, and today, let's go ahead and check in on the pages of X-Men issue 2 to see if Cyclops and his brand new team are able to stop an alien invasion in San Francisco. But before we get deeper into the video, I want to encourage you to consider subscribing to the channel. X-Men issue 2 is still written by Jed MacKay, featuring artwork from Ryan Stegman. We have inks from J.P. Mayer, colors from both Marte Gracia and verse Sifuentes-Sujo, and letters from VC's Clayton Cowles. In addition, here the cover over on X-Men issue 2 is illustrated by Ryan Stegman, J.P. Mayer, and Marte Gracia. Really like this image, actually spotlighting the character of Psylocke, who hasn't had that much screen time yet over in the pages of this new X-Men series. Also, want to give a quick shout out to Adventures in Poor Taste for posting some of these preview pages, and I want to go ahead and dive in on some of the interiors for X-Men Chapter 2. Right from the very first page, this issue is able to establish its location and setting over in San Francisco, as we're introduced to this mysterious character known as Ben. Ben is contacted over from a social worker before readers can see this really interesting purple hue over in the background. I think both of the colorists on the issue do a phenomenal job, and so much of the purple and blue hues over in the background, I think, really establish the visual identity for this brand new volume of X-Men. Also, this next page is absolutely stunning from Ryan Stegman. I feel like the layout and design is so incredibly complicated as we get to see some of the brand new alien characters towards the top of the panel and preview the X-Men ship known as the Marauder here in the foreground. Plus, some of the credits on the page are also featured as well towards the bottom of this sequence. On this next page here, author Jed MacKay is able to tap into so many of his relationship dynamics that he established for our X-Men in the first issue. Watching Jed MacKay hint towards some of the animosity between Cyclops and Quentin Quire Kid Omega is a ton of fun here, especially due to the fact that Cyclops is still not willing to call Kid Omega over by his codename in the series. Plus, this also gives way to some of our plot in the comic book, as the X-Men are actually headed over to San Francisco to not only stop the alien invasion, but try and find a brand new mutant who is seemingly activated alongside some of these threats. The next page on the issue actually teases Cyclops going into battle with some of these alien invaders alongside both Magik and Psylocke. There's several things to note about this page. First off, I think readers have already gotten a glimpse at Ryan Stegman illustrating a very similar page to this in the past. I hope in the future of X-Men as an ongoing series, Ryan Stegman is able to differentiate some of these page layouts and really show some interesting sense of movement and design for these X-Men characters, especially because people like Temper are so new to X-Men continuity, especially in the context of their latest code name. Another aspect about this installment and issue of X-Men that I think is so enjoyable is how author Jed MacKay is able to establish so many of the relationship dynamics between our X-Men characters. In this issue, it felt like we got to see Juggernaut get a little bit closer over to Temper in the installments. Watching Temper actually load Juggernaut into a cannon to fight back against this alien invasion was incredibly thrilling, and I hope this pair is able to get a little bit closer as the comic book continues within its own ongoing series. Also, I was so happy to see the rest of the cast of this X-Men issue referenced towards the final page here. There's so many interesting mutants working alongside Cyclops over in his base in Merle, Alaska called the Factory, and I really hope that Jed MacKay is able to use some different mutants and put them a little bit closer over to the spotlight in future installments. I would really love to see an issue taking over from Beast or Psylocke in the near future from Jed MacKay or Marvel Comics. So at the end of the day here, I really think Marvel's X-Men issue 2 is an incredible comic book tale that does a wonderful job telling a really interesting plot with so much quirky characterization. While I do think that some of the disparate colors detracted from some of my enjoyment in the issue, I still love the distinctive visual color palette that X-Men Chapter 2 is able to evoke in so many of those pages, especially with those blue and purple hues that we can see. Also, I'm really hoping that Jed MacKay is going to work on really establishing our character dynamics to make these X-Men operate more like a team as opposed to a squad in the near future. The final page did such a great job dialing up the plot and introducing so many fascinating elements towards the next installment of X-Men. But I want to know from you, what were some of your thoughts over on X-Men issue 2? Did you like this comic book as much as I did? What do you think about that mysterious last page hinting at a really interesting plot implication for a future comic book issue? Thank you so much for coming to check out our video review over on the Adjectiveless X-Men 2, and we'll be back to see wherever this series is headed next.